We are in the IST time zone, that is the Indian Standard Time, and I'll be starting to discuss the stuff. Give me a few minutes before I start, and there are a couple of things we need to discuss as far as the flux goes, and the need of the hour is to close the portals, and we will try and close the portals as quick as possible. So I'll be talking about some brands which have made a mark not only in the world but also in India. So give me few more minutes before I start. So we are going to start with the GDPR compliance first. And okay, even before talking about the GDPR compliance, there are a lot of trade related aspects of intellectual property rights. That is basically the TRIPS agreement. And to understand the TRIPS agreement, um, one has to understand the brands. Branding is very important, and especially when we're talking about the international brands and the domestic brands. So I'll start with the international brand, that is Starbucks. So Starbucks is nothing to do with luxury. Most of the folks around the world have no cognizance what Starbucks is all about. I'm going to talk about that. And then this is basically the brand of Lakme. And this Lakme brand is basically Hindustan Unilever Limited Hull, which is this is basically manufactured in the year 2019. Then we have Gucci, and then we have these gift cards. I mean, the new way of gifting is basically the gift cards, and they have the SKUs written on it. Another very important brand which has cognizance is Miniso. Miniso, a lot of people have different ideations on it. Then the next brand I like to talk about is Victoria's Secret. The next brand, which is very, very important, which is the international brand. So we are going to come to the domestic part also, but let's first have the cognizance of the international brands, and this is Superdry. What has happened in last 100 years is very different in terms of understanding the IEEE standards also. So there's something called as IEEE standards, and there's something called as ISO standards. There's something called as ISO 56000. Basically, that standard is standardization is of high standard. That way of doing thing is very different. And if you just research and if you a lot of stuff which for which I was interviewed that is not available in India or globally, that is available in China, because China has that great wall built in the online world, and because of that, their GDPR compliance is very different. Now, the problem statement India, aka Bharat, needs to resolve is the challenge of the blockchain based royalty distribution system. Just saying that, we are blockchain compliant or we are GDPR compliant in some aspects doesn't resolve the issue. Over the years, there have been discussion about smart cities, but now the biggest question mark is who are the folks who are making the city smart? So that's a global mandate. And for that, we have something called as AI for good. So AI for good is artificial intelligence, which is for the good purpose. However, it has come to the notice of loads of folks that ChatGPT is misusing AI because anybody or anyone, whether it's a child, whether it's a major, or whether it's a senior citizen at any age group, when anybody is utilizing any of these models, which is based on AI is basically, or you can take AI as a robot in the online world, which is taking data, absorbing data, and trying to answer questions. The questions which might look different to different individuals, even if you give the same question. Say, for example, I give this card. This is Starbucks card. Now, what does this card mean to anyone? That's the kind of data set AI is trying to understand. Is AI clue? AI is smart? Is not the question we need to answer. The question we need to answer is, as Homo sapiens sapiens, whosoever is a Homo sapiens sapien, is able to utilize the common sense to resolve the issue and mitigate the risk in real time. And that is what SWOT analysis is all about. So the point of contention here is folks should take up courses not only from the international mandate, which is ITU, WIPO, you should take courses from ISB. I mean, I have done so many online and offline courses, and they spend so much on training the women entrepreneurs. So I qualified in the year 2013. And the good thing was, it was a combined uh, experience of getting the best of the both worlds in terms of BIMTech, which is Birla Institute based out in Greater Noida, and the second one is ISB Hyderabad. Uh, the kind of work I was doing in 2013, it was not feasible for me to travel because I was writing loads of framework applications in different domains. So it's not that I've written application for one particular domain. Honestly speaking, I have forgotten the count number also. Maybe in the online world, I've written, 20,000 hours, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Because as a patent expert, as a patent attorney, as a person who has been working in IPR for the longest time, uh, so working on multiple devices is a common thing. This is a common thing for architects also. You will see architect based people, they work on big screens. So I used to work on multiple screens. So it's not that that is blockchain. Blockchain is not, again, nothing to do with the screens. Um, so there was someone very close to me in terms of who's a real blockchainer, because uh, real blockchainers are a handful of people, and they have been handpicked much before this lockdown happened. And I'm one of them, and very happy that being selected as a blockchain creator, it gives an immense opportunity. At the same point of time, it's a task which is like 24 cross 7. The whole team is online 24 cross 7 at any given point of time. We cannot be offline because the kind of resources we have to deploy just to solve those problems, it has to be real time. So folks are recruited from all kinds. I mean, when I say all kinds, it means anyone and everyone, and especially from the African region. and they are my virtual shields who are looking into the data set, being that cert. I've been asked that who are the people who have become certs. Honestly speaking, even telling that data set that who is a cert who has been, trained by me, that's not the question I wish to answer. It's very simple. I or any of the AIs which is working with us is providing the data set in the real time, and that problem statement is resolved. Now the thing is, now this is plastic, and this is a cheap form of plastic, and the cost of this plastic is like this bottle cost INR. I'm talking about Indian currency 20. It is basically a quality product of Coca-Cola company. Now understand one thing. People for the longest time have said that Coke has done very well. I was just looking into the data set today, looking into the concept of different the idea of cold drinks, Campa Cola, and all that. Um, is it good for human consumption? Now the thing is, Homo sapiens sapiens are so used to having, or I would rather say the system has become like that because see, water is H2O. I don't know how many people know basic chemistry because I have no cognizance what is happening in the schooling world and how water is taught because my early schooling was from army. We were taught in a very different environment. It is very, very different from the civilians. Having said that, water is H2O. And the other aspect is salt is NaCl, that is sodium and chlorine. That being said, a very uh, something which was very dear to me just few months back, or I would say few weeks back, because what happened was I was at the Supreme Court election, and the temperature, because of whatever we were wearing, also is like black and white. The temperature rose. Probably it was feeling like 50, so you can understand. So when the body is, you know, body has its own homeostasis, and when the homeostasis is in action, the body releases salt. Now the thing is, folks who are 30 plus in biological age should not be having these pani puris. They should not be having golgappas. This why we say so is initially these were built or these were eaten by folks to have a, I would say, a leisure time, because if you go to Kolkata particularly, it works in a very different fashion because I've stayed there for some time, because the sun rises very early and the sunset is very early as compared to Delhi. I mean, I remember as a kiddo, like I used to wake up 5 in the morning, and even when I was working on some of the issues I was facing, um, somewhere from 2010 to 2015. I mean, people used to send you mail 4 a.m. in the morning, and they expect a call at 7 a.m. because for them, by 8ish, they're done for the day. They will probably, have a cool time, then they will have their cool down period, they sleep. So this is basically the way how Kolkata works, and it's a good way, I would say. It's a different way. They have a tweak, but it's a good way of living life because you need to give the framework body some rest also. So the point I'm trying to make here is, for the longest time in my life, I loved pani puri, golgappa, puchka. However, I noted that because I'm internationally trained in so many things in terms of, meditation, body vibe, muscles, blah, 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 Zumba, and all that. I'm a master trainer. And being a master trainer, this device was like, it was beeping in terms of when it was above 120. So BPM when it's above 120 and 150, that is a question mark. However, I was trained in this way back for the longest time in the last 10 years. But I was thinking, why there are so many deaths which are happening in and around? And what I came to know is the reason is salt. The point I'm trying to make here is, if you use natural fruits and vegetables, it has its own sweetness, it has its own salt. So avoid salt which is given externally in terms of maybe any company salt. I'm not here to endorse anyone or not stopping anyone from having salt, because butter has its own salt. uh, Milk itself, when you talk about the white revolution and you look at the different time zones of the white revolution, salt has played a very pivotal role during Mahatma Gandhi time also. So Satyagraha and everything, there was a revolution around salt also. And honestly speaking, making salt is very easy in terms of experimental purpose. But when you consume salt, the blood pressure rises, and that peak in the blood pressure can cause any third party heart attack in real time. And avoiding salt is very important. Don't take salt in any format which is external. Avoid salt at this point of hour, because today also the AI had researched so many articles, and especially I saw it in India and worldwide. I'm seeing salt caramel ice cream. I'm seeing salt this, salt that, salt bath, salt that. You don't need that. When somebody is in pain, um, that is the time you go for the spas and where you're using salts, because it's an osmosis where the the toxicity is released. But taking salt externally in terms of pani puri and golgappas should be avoided at all cost. Now, can that be a cheat code for people who love chaat papris and all? I don't know, because I'm avoiding salt at all cost, because when I saw my data set, the health parameters, I realized that biologically, this is the age, though AI is saying that, you're 16, you're 18, you're 21. When I was in China, it was 21. Recently, it has been reset to 16, which is a good thing. Nothing wrong with that. But the parameters have to be understood. And for that, I will urge everyone, and particularly the Indians, there's a book called I don't know if that book is available or not, because that used to be available at one point of time. um, the short form is ICMR. ICMR is an institute which is nearby AIMS, Delhi. And a lot of people who are going to gym, just doing exercises, normal exercise also, even if you're exercising once or twice a week, that is also not required in many ways, because what is more important right now is to have this the building of uh, solar plexus, because once you build your solar plexus, then the root chakra is activated, and once the root chakra is activated, you can take care of any situation in real time. Folks must have seen few of the videos which were like um, I got hurt uh, last year, somewhere between April, May. Suddenly, I mean, I know what pain is in terms of just imagine you go for a pedicure and the next day due to something the whole nail comes out, and this happened the second time, not the first time. But this second time was more intense, and for the very first time in my life, I puked for almost half an hour. Whatever was there, it came out. So the point I'm trying to make here is Homo sapiens sapiens, they have this um, a mechanism to refute in real time. And to refute in real time, you have to train yourself. So avoid these pani puris and golgappas and charts and everything, because what I noted for last couple of days on Zomato, at least 10-15 days, whatever I'm ordering, it is too much of salt being added. That is point number one. Point number two, the orders are not coming. Half of the order is coming. They're utilizing AI. I mean, if that is the state of affair, and if the owner of these brands don't take cognizance of it, because you are taking GST, the companies, any of the companies, I'm not naming any nomenclature here, because that business was the proprietary stuff which was already developed in other countries, say for example USPTO. So under corporate law, all these companies are supposed to give a percentage of royalty. And blockchain is nothing to do with the blocks, all these chains, and 10 minutes. No. This was I would rather say, an hypothesis, an experiment which we blockchainers were doing. Who are the blockchain creators? Because it is well written, if you go to the BBC stuff, that this is what is going to happen when on the timeline we are here. However, we were able to carry it forward till 2025, but right now there's so much destruction happening because of people being online so much, which is not required. You don't need to be online 24/7, and that is what China did. When we talk about net neutrality and stuff, we have to save people also. We cannot allow, or the government of India should take cognizance of it, that why that person is online. Does that person even needs to have a mobile phone when that person is working in an office? We have to go back to our roots. We have to understand our history, and that is the reason. All these sweet shops and everything, avoid it. Sweets, every fruits have their own sweetness, right? Have fruits which have their own sweetness. Avoid all these junk which is even India made. In terms of what is good, let me talk about it. In Gujarat, you get these khakras and bhapras and what paplas and the best of the things, and it is cooked at a temperature which is right, uh, as a snack. It's a snacking stuff. When I was doing my undergrad under in Delhi University, uh, so there was something written as finger foods. So finger foods is something like I'm in a meeting right now. I need to rush to the another meeting. Something which is like handy enough. That is called as finger food. Finger food. That was one of the terms because honestly, just doing that course in that era, the amount of money government of India spent, I think that is much more than they spent on medical doctors and others, because it was an experiment for so many reasons, and that experiment did its magic, and this is what we are seeing right now. So the problem statement is to avoid salts, use natural resources, and the government of India needs to make sure, because I've done a lot of work for this. Uh, those data sets have been taken. I'm not pretty sure it's published or not, because few of my AI models are still in the mode where we are still working on what to even review, because when you train your own AI models, you have to be very particular. You cannot be training junk stuff. You cannot be talking about junk. But at the same point of times, although burgers and everything where they talk about McDonald's, they are junk. I agree. But once in a while, maybe once in 90 days, maybe once in 45 days, if you're craving for it, it is okay, but in moderation. However, that also can be prepared in a manner which is acceptable by these standards. So one is ICMR standards. You can look into FDAs also. Recently, personally, I haven't looked into it because my style of working is a little different. My understanding of food technology is a little different because I'm an inventor from a very long time, and that patent is not in the government database also. Anyhow, that's besides the point. So let's just finish this, and just like China, we have to learn from our neighbors. That's the best thing we can do as a country right now. Once we learn from our neighbors and see what are the good things they have done, and Modi ji and the team have to look into it. I'm not here to talk about whether Niti Aayog is doing well, whether this is doing well, that is doing right or wrong. Right now, we are at SOS, and when we're talking about SOS, we have to take and mitigate the risk in the real time. That is SWOT analysis. That way, there are a lot of food stuff uh, based out in, I would say, in Maharashtra, which is good enough. But again, avoid salts, amchur, anything which is NACA, because the human body, if you go through the biochemistry and understand, Campbell is the Bible. I have studied it thoroughly. And there's something called as sodium, potassium, and calcium pump in the body. And whatever is happening, though it is called as neurons, forget what is neurons. That is the biggest misfit word which is being used and utilized for training the AI models. Take it as acetylcholine. Why should I take it as acetylcholine? I can take it whatever I wish to. The point I'm trying to make here is to spike those neurons. A message has to transfer, and when the message transfers, new dendritic cells are formed. It's just like how trees are rooted. I know there are some places, like say for example, there's a house which is a koti. Koti is something, a person who owns the land and the you know builds up the house. It's because the land is very limited in India, right? That being said, if that land always had its trees and everything, there was a garden, and suddenly you just remove the garden, that that root will. So, what happens in that case is, let's just finish it in next 2 minutes. That that root will come out as a weed. So, weed is not the unnecessary stuff. For today, let's take weed. That is WEED, weed equal to salt, uh, and look into the factorial stuff for the pause. That is the preparation of the steak, and see how it works. If you have any question, just send me DM on the number which is told, and we look into it. And all the best to everyone. We are doing very well as blockchainers, not only in India but the global blockchain community, the real blockchain community. Nothing to do with cryptocurrency. Thank you for watching out the video. Have a great day.